Today, you're with us as we explore something genuinely baffling, a signal from the depths of space that, well, it just doesn't fit anything we thought we knew.
It really is one of those head-scratchers. This isn't just another cosmic puzzle. It's making us question some fundamental ideas about the universe.
Absolutely. So let's set the scene. It's May 2024. Astronomers using the Australian Square Kilometre Array Pathfinder ASKAP, they detect something
Weird.
very weird. Picture this. A signal pulsing from deep space. Okay, maybe not that strange on its own, but this one pulsed every 44 minutes, like clockwork. And the really unusual part.
The X-rays.
Exactly. Each radio pulse was immediately followed by a burst of X-rays.
Yeah.
That combination, that precise timing, it's just never been seen before.
Well, and that's what got everyone's attention. This object, they've named it ASKAP J1832 It stood out immediately. It's way too slow to be a normal pulsar. You know, those fast-spinning neutron stars.
Right, pulsars usually milliseconds, maybe seconds, not 44 minutes.
But it's also too predictable to be just some random event. And it's bright enough that you simply can't ignore it.
So naturally, the scientific community starts throwing theories at it. Okay, first idea, maybe it's a magnetar. You know, one of those dead stars with a monster magnetic field.
Makes sense to check. But no, the way ASKAP J1832 Obena 911 behaves, its energy profile, it just doesn't line up with known magnetars.
Okay, scratch magnetar. What about two white dwarfs, like orbiting each other really close? That could create a rhythm, couldn't it?
Conceptually, yes.
Yeah.
It's a plausible source for periodic signals. But when you run the numbers, the physics, the orbital mechanics required, the energy output we're seeing,
Didn't work.
not even close. The math just didn't add up at all. So we were left scratching our heads, really. No standard model fit.
Which brings us to our mission today. For you, listening, we're going to dig into these strange pulse patterns, why the easy answers failed, and, well, explore the questions that seem to be making scientists a little uneasy.
And it's important because connecting this to the bigger picture, it really does challenge our basic understanding. When something breaks the mold like this, it forces you to think critically, maybe even consider possibilities you'd normally dismiss.
Because, I mean, when something out there in the cosmos beats like a heart, you can't help but wonder who or what set that rhythm. Let's zero in on the signal itself, because its precision is just remarkable. ASKAP J1832 Day 09 Level 1. It's located out in the constellation Scutum, about 15,000 light years away, they think.
And it's alone. That's another odd thing. Usually you might expect something like a nebula around an object like this, or maybe a companion star.
But nothing. Just this single point, sending out these coordinated pulses of radio waves and X-rays, like a beacon in the dark.
And the consistency.
Wow.
Astronomers tracked it for weeks. It never missed a beat. 44 minutes. Every single time.
Even when the Earth turned, and Australia couldn't see it anymore, observatories on the other side of the planet picked it right up. Still pulsing.
That unwavering regularity, that's what really started the whispers, the more speculative talk.
Yeah. Was it natural? Or could it be artificial? Because, I mean, something emitting with that kind of precision, that clockwork timing.
It usually implies there's some kind of mechanism driving it. A clock, so to speak. And that's where things start getting really interesting and maybe a bit uncomfortable.
So as we said, the usual suspects, magnetars, colliding white dwarfs, even these theoretical slow pulsars, they tried them all.
And none of them quite fit the bill. All the models failed to explain all the characteristics of this signal.
Which led to this kind of blurring line, didn't it,
Yeah.
between straightforward astronomy and, well, something else.
It did. There was even this post by an anonymous astronomer on a physics forum. Quite specific. They said, this signal feels constructed, not in frequency, in intention.
In intention, that's a loaded word.
It is. And what's really curious, or maybe telling, is that the post was apparently deleted just 48 minutes later.
48 minutes, that's oddly close to the signal's pulse period. Coincidence.
Who knows, maybe the person just got cold feet. Or maybe something else happened. It certainly adds to the intrigue.
And then things got even stranger.
Yeah.
Right? In June 2024.
Yeah, amateur astronomers, the ones who track these things closely, they noticed that the coordinates for ASKAP J1832 Lemon suddenly vanished from some public tracking APIs.
It's gone.
Removed. And then, shortly after, a small solar observatory, their Twitter account was briefly locked down, and a post they'd made mentioning a repeating artificial signal related to this, scrubbed, deleted.
Okay, so there are two ways to look at that.
Yeah.
One is authorities are just being cautious, trying to prevent wild speculation from getting out of hand. Sensible, maybe?
For some might see it as a warning. a signal to back off. It definitely raises questions about how information is managed when you encounter something truly unknown, something potentially paradigm shifting.
Because if it's not a known stellar object doing this,
Yes.
what's left? I mean, the possibilities get pretty wild pretty fast.
You start thinking about things like, could it be some kind of deep space machine, a navigational beacon from somewhere else? Or maybe even, as some have tentatively suggested, some kind of test signal.
And the pulse itself, it isn't just a simple blip. You mentioned the pattern.
Yes, the structure within the 44-minute cycle is complex, it seems to be. 3 smaller bursts, fairly quick, followed by one main, stronger signal, and that sequence repeats.
3 small, 1 large. Over and over. Someone plotted the waveform, apparently.
They did, and remarked it looked almost musical, or at least highly structured, not random noise, which naturally leads to speculation.
Could it be a countdown? Or
Oh,
some
yeah.
kind of encoded message, maybe?
Those are the theories floating around. The sheer non-randomness of it fuels that kind of thinking. But then there's the really weird part.
Go on.
It seemed to respond
Respond to what?
to interference.
Yeah.
Back in June 2024, there was a significant solar flare. And right around that time, observers noted the signal's timing briefly shifted, just by about 3 seconds.
Okay, solar flares can disrupt signals. That makes sense.
Yes, but here's the kicker. It shifted by 3 seconds, and then it immediately corrected itself. It snapped right back to the precise 44-minute cycle.
Adjusted itself.
That's what the data suggests, as if it compensated for the disruption.
Okay, let's unpack that. A signal that not only repeats perfectly, but seems to notice interference and corrects its own timing. That's quite a thought, isn't it?
It's profoundly anomalous from an astrophysical standpoint. Natural phenomena don't usually self-correct like that. It implies a level of active responsiveness that's very hard to explain with known physics.
Almost like it knew we were listening, or at least knew something had interfered.
That's the unsettling implication, yes. It shifts it from just a passive broadcast to something that feels more active, aware, perhaps.
All right, given all these anomalies, the precision, the pattern, the responsiveness, it pushes us towards a really radical idea, one that most scientists are understandably hesitant to even talk about.
And that's the proximity question.
Exactly. What if ASKAP J1832 J09 Loman isn't 15,000 light years away in Scutum? What if it's closer? Like, much closer?
Maybe even within our own solar system.
Could it be? Could something be out there disguised?
Yeah.
Made to look like it's incredibly distant?
It sounds like science fiction, I know. But there are theoretical concepts. Some former SETI researchers have speculated about using things like gravitational lensing, using mass to bend light and distort distance readings as a potential cloaking mechanism. A way to hide in plain sight, appearing as just another faint, distant star.
The perfect cover.
Theoretically, it pushes the boundaries of known physics. But the idea of manipulating space-time for camouflage isn't completely outside the realm of advanced theoretical possibilities.
But the implication is staggering. If that were true, then someone or something could potentially be orbiting nearby. Right now, watching us.
It's a profound thought, and while highly speculative, the signal's strangeness forces us to at least consider these more unconventional possibilities. It certainly makes you look up at the night sky a bit differently.
And this isn't necessarily happening in a vacuum, is it? There have been mentions of connections to past events.
Yes, there was apparently a leaked internal report from a university research team that mentioned finding temporal pattern correlation with prior anomalies, basically saying this signal's timing characteristics look familiar.
Familiar how? What other anomalies?
Specifically, they drew parallels to FRB 1ACO916, that's a known fast radio burst, that also had a repeating pattern, though different and perhaps more intriguingly, a now declassified signal detected over Siberia back in 1997.
Wow. Okay, so what do they have in common?
According to the report, it's things like the specific frequency band they operate in, a similar characteristic silence between bursts, and perhaps crucially, hints of that same 44-minute timing element showing up in the analysis of those older signals too.
The same 44-minute clue, popping up across decades in different types of signals.
That's the suggestion, and it raises another question. Each time one of these truly baffling signals appeared, the official response seems to have been silence.
So is that just standard scientific caution? Waiting for confirmation, not wanting to cry wolf? Or could it be something more coordinated, a deliberate withholding of information?
It's impossible to say for sure, but when you see a pattern of unexplained signals with shared characteristics coupled with a pattern of official silence, it certainly makes you wonder, It suggests perhaps something more complex is going on than just isolated random cosmic events.
We need to be clear, of course. There's no definitive proof of anything extraordinary here.
Not at all, just data points, patterns, anomalies that resist easy explanation.
But as the source material we looked at points out, the universe usually doesn't repeat itself with such precision without some underlying reason. And this signal, ASKAP J1832 War 911, it's still out there, pulsing away, right now as you're listening to this.
It remains a persistent, active enigma. It continues to poke at the edges of our astronomical knowledge, demanding investigation.
So what are we left with? Is it just a very peculiar dying star exhibiting a rhythm we don't understand yet? Could it be some ancient beacon from a long-lost civilization, its light finally reaching us after millennia?
Or is it the more unsettling possibility, something much closer than we think, deliberately hidden, cloaked in light and distance?
Whatever it is, it keeps going. And that final thought from the source material really lingers. If it is constructed, if it's a test signal, as some have dared to whisper, then what's the test? And who or what is it for? What could the intention possibly be behind a signal like this, so persistent, so precise, seemingly responsive, yet maybe hidden?
It leaves us with far more questions than answers.
It definitely does. Something to think about next time you look up at the night sky.